Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So the second day of our international conference with International Sociological Association Research Council 25 on Language and Society, and with our partners, Institute of Political Studies of Polish Academy of Sciences. We are at the Maria Grzegorzewska University in Warsaw. And it is my pleasure to welcome you again at our conference. I would like to introduce a very important and special person, Dr. Marek Michalak, an ombudsman for children's rights in Poland for many years, and also a member of our university council for many years, and what's most important, a president of International Korczak Association. We are very lucky to have him here today. And he will open today's keynote sessions. But before that, I would like to reveal the color scheme of today, which is blue and yellow in solidarity with Ukraine, of course, and with solidarity with Lower Silesia, where the horrible floods are taking place this week, and also in solidarity with the memory of daffodils that symbolizes Warsaw Ghetto and the ghetto liquidation in 1943. Forgive me if you find this a bit flamboyant, but it is very symbolic to us here in Poland in this time. So without prolonging my very long welcomes, I hope that you all feel cordially welcome, and I hand over to Dr. Marek Michalak.
Bardzo dziękuję. Bardzo dziękuję Pani Profesor przede wszystkim za zorganizowanie i za zaproszenie nas tutaj w gościnne progi Akademii Pedagogiki Specjalnej.
Thank you very much, Professor, for inviting me to this University of Warsaw. Maria Grzegorzewska University.
Przepraszam, ale to ważny telefon, bo to z terenów powodziowych akurat przyjeżdżam do Was z pozdrowieniami od zalanej naszej szkoły w Nowym Świętowie, szkoły imienia Janusza Korczaka, która czeka na konkretną pomoc.
Okay, I'm sorry about this, but I'm on hotline with a school that was flooded. I'm just coming from the floods area, and there is a school that's been completely damaged, and I hope that we will also be able to pull some resources to help.
Tym chciałem zakończyć, ale jak pani dyrektor telefonem mnie tu wywołała do odpowiedzi, to są priorytety, tak? To są dzisiaj rzeczy ważne i ważniejsze.
These are the priorities of today. There are more important and less important things.
Zbieramy się w naszym gronie korczakowskim, ale szerzej w gronie naukowym rozmawiać o pokoju, o bezpieczeństwie na świecie, w tej naszej polskiej rzeczywistości także.
We have gathered here today to talk about important matters in Korczak associations, in Korczak membership group, but also more wider to discuss peace in the world, to discuss democracy and all the important matters that take place in the world.
Ale tak naprawdę mamy świadomość, że te wszystkie nasze spotkania, konferencje będą miały sens wtedy, kiedy nadamy im praktyczny wymiar.
We are aware that all these scientific talks will have more sense if we give them practical angle.
O tym, co mówiła wcześniej pani profesor, o tym, co było rozważane podczas konferencji. Wiemy, jak wygląda sytuacja, trudna sytuacja dzieci w wielu zakątkach świata.
We know how difficult situation of children in many parts of the world is.
Dzisiaj w naszej polskiej rzeczywistości też nie jest tak słodko i nie jest tak bezpiecznie, to o czym chociażby przed chwilą telefon.
In our Polish reality it is not as safe as it may seem, and it is not so sweet as it may appear. That's why the call.
Ja mam taką wewnętrzną refleksję, że jeśli prawdziwy hołd chcemy oddać staremu doktorowi, to w działaniu, nie w gadaniu.
I have a reflection that if we want to honor Janusz Korczak, it should be in active participation, not just talking.
Dlatego też już teraz zapraszam do wspólnego działania i pomocy naszej szkole imienia Janusza Korczaka w Nowym Świętochowie, która już teraz czeka na konkretne wsparcie.
So I'm already inviting you to help to bring aid to the school in Świętochów, where the children are waiting for our support.
straciła podłogi, straciła sprzęty, okazuje się, że nawet uszkodzony jest dach.
They lost equipment, they lost floors, and the roof is damaged.
Ale to są tylko mury, to są tylko przedmioty, ale tam jest 80 dzieci, które trzeba natychmiast wywieźć, żeby mogły bezpiecznie spędzać czas.
This is just walls, this is just buildings, but there is 80 alive children that need to be taken somewhere safe, where they can actively spend their time.
W akcję już włączyli się kawalerowie Orderu Uśmiechu. Tutaj na sali widzę Batię Gilad, widzę Swietłanę Piotrowską, inni nasi też z różnych stron świata mocno akcentują, więc myślę, że będziemy znowu konkretni w działaniu.
Members of the Order of the Smile are already actively helping, and I hope that you will also consider joining our action.
Ale muszę Państwu powiedzieć, też mam taką refleksję, bo to jest taki mój miesiąc pożegnalny w tym miejscu, bo za moment przekażę w dobre ręce kierownictwo Międzynarodowego Stowarzyszenia Janusza Korczaka, a za 2 tygodnie odejdę z Rady Uczelni Akademii Pedagogiki Specjalnej.
This is a very special day for me, like a goodbye period, when I am saying goodbye to the International Korczak Association as the president, waiting for the new elect, and I'm also leaving the Maria Grzegorzewska University board, where I've been serving for the 4 years.
Ale też z takim poczuciem, że nigdy nie odejdę z ruchu korczakowskiego i ze społeczności APS-u.
But I also can assure you that I will never leave the Korczak movement and the community of Maria Grzegorzewska University.
Korzystając z okazji, bardzo serdecznie dziękuję za te 6 lat dobrej, rzetelnej współpracy.
Taking this opportunity, I want to thank you cordially for 6 years of a wonderful collaboration.
Życzę dobrych obrad.
I wish you a very successful session.
Dzięki.
And now I would like to call to the floor our first keynote speaker, Dr. Hatem El Abed, from the Tunisian Korczak Association. Thank you for being here with us. It is a privilege and honor to host you, and I hope you will address us.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Anna, for your invitation. It's a really honor for me to be always with you, with our friends from Korczak and other friends from the university. And I thank all person who works here in the university and who makes a big effort to succeed in this conference. Thank you. My last 15 minutes, okay, I'll try to be short. I will speak a little bit about the situation of the children's rights in Tunisia. And like we discussed yesterday, that the situation of children in all continent of Africa needs to be that we put it in our ideas, because children in Africa need really many help, like other children in other countries, but perhaps a little bit more. So in Tunisia, the children's rights are like there is many efforts for the government, from the civil society, and all persons are interested in childhood. So child protection in is a national priority through development of several programs that take into account the specifics of children and are in line with the requirement of international legislation. Based on the child's fundamental rights to favor protective, several measures have been put in place to protect the child from all forms of violence, harm, physical or moral abuse, negligent or negligent behavior. Child protection programs have multiplied and diversified to include all groups with special needs. These programs rely on interventions from different discipline fields and sectors to implement them. Ensure that the best interesting of child are a primary consideration in accordance with the general principle enshrined in Article 3 on the Convention of the Rights of Child in all action taken against him or her, whether by the court's administrative authority or public or private social whatever institution. Tunisia ratified the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Child in 1991, and it was behind the first countries that ratified the convention. It issued the Child Protection Code in 1995, and it is considered as pioneer legislative gain that is unique to Tunisia in its Arab, Islamic, and African neighborhood. Now, Tunisia was the first country in Africa that issued a child protection code in 1995. This legislative system was reinforced by Tunisian ratification of the International Labour Convention number 138 on the minimum age of child labor and the International Convention number 182 on the worst form of child labor. Tunisia has acceded to the optional protocols to the Convention of Rights of a Child of the involvement of children in armed conflicts and on the sale of children, child prostitution, and child pornography. A family and a child Jews schemes was also created in 1993. Establishing the Corps of Child Protection Delegate and generalized it in all provinces and adopting the plan of a general delegate for child protection to develop preventive and protective intervention for children at risk. 10th in the world and first in the Arab world according to the 2016 Child Rights Index published annually by the Child Rights Foundation. This international ranking is based on 5 criteria, including the right to life, the right to health, the right to education, the right to protection, and the child's environment right. During a high-level conference in November 2018 in Stockholm, and in reconnaissance of its effort in the field children's rights, Tunisia was handed the torch to host the 4th session of International Conference on Childhood Without Corporal Punishment in 2022. For the program and the institution, Tunisia establishment of structure and institution in the field of child protection, in particular the National Program for Social Action in the social environment, which was launched last year and is considered an integrated intervention system to prevent. This program is an integrated intervention system to prevent early school dropout and manifestation of school maladjustment. Establishment of listing and counseling office in priority and secondary schools, supporting family placement and foster care program for children without family support. Also, it was a pilot center to monitor delinquent children at the pre-sentence stage. Establishment of 10 defense and social integration centers whose main tasks are the early detection of delinquency. Establishment of the Observatory for Information Training, Documentation and Studies on the Protection of Children's Rights at the Ministry of Human, Family and Children Affairs. Establishment of 67 childcare institution with a half residence or follow-up system in the family environment. Development, the service provided by the National Child Welfare Institute for children between the age of 1 and 6 who have no family support. The imbalance between rural, there is some challenges and stakes for all the effort that we do to protect the children. The imbalance between rural and urban areas and centers with regard to the provision of protection service, including programs and institution. The weakness of the media system in the field of child protection and in informing and defining the rights of children and the service and the program available to protect them among various parties, especially the family. The weak involvement of the associative fabric and its unbalanced and insufficient harmonious contribution with the national priority and regional needs. Lack of basic training program in most health, social, educational, and legal disciplines related to children protection. The low availability of children judges in many courts of first instance during the trial period. Girl offered face more difficulties than boys in integrating into the family and the social environment as a result of the influence of cultural and social factors, especially in some circles. Difficulty in reintegrating delinquent and convalescent children into schools to enable them to continue their education. So this is our this is like a principle for us here that let's help them, let's help the children to be themselves, like said Korjak, to do with and for them, to cultivate happiness and love in their hearts, to be an instrument of change for the world. And at least I will finish by just a little bit an idea about the Korjak Association in Tunisia, which is born in 2016. So it was created in 2016 and is placed with the situation that prevailed in Tunisia, that was with regard to the discuss over children's rights, public power from the part of Tunisian official representative. The discussion over children's rights did not become concrete, and action were not taken in favor of Tunisian children. Those who not only need education, health care, and social protection, but also they need respect and welfare. The principal goals of the association is to emphasizing literature and pedagogical artwork of Janis Korjak with regards to all age categories and consolidate the benefits of education system related to that work. Contribution in the training of educators in the field of childrenhood, taken into consideration the pedagogical aspect towards children and their rights. For all activities for the association is based on three topics, with the children, with educators, and with family, because we believe that is the three pole or the three important things that can go together in the same time. So we always try to plan some meeting with parents to discuss with them about their children, their rights, and how to deal with them in their families. And also educators, because educators, we think that have to be more they have to adopt a new pedagogy, new vision for children, inspired from Korczak Association, which is based on love and also in respect for children. And you know, in Arab and Muslim or African situation, always the behaviors, the norms are not really easy to change some pedagogical or education vision. And also we have made always many works with children and give him especially the right to speak, the right to be heard, and we have to listen to their problems. We have to respect all what they say, all what they need, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Hatem. This was a very interesting perspective from North Africa. I think we will see if we have enough time for discussion later. And I would like to call to the floor Professor Moshe Schner from Oranim College of Education, also representing Ghetto Fighters Association. And he'll be talking to us about the Kingdom of Children, a case of peace, education in children literature and cinema, following Janusz Korczak's King Mat, the first novel, 1923, and the movie from 1958.
Wow, you're so far. I wish you could come closer. I hate this geographic setting of students that I not even can see clearly. But thank you for being here. Thank you, Anna. I'm very privileged to be able to come here because just a week ago, I didn't know if I will be able to come, and on the coming Sunday, I don't know if I will be able to return home. I thought a lot about what I'm going to start with, just to jump to Korczak, or to connect it to the reality that we are coming from. I don't know if you know, but me and Avi and Batya are coming from a war zone. That we are in a war for 11 months already, and we are in a terrible situation inside Israel and outside Israel, outside our borders. And in my village and Batya's community, the sirens are sound at nights and days, and every morning at 6 a.m. about the parents get the message if the school is open or the schools are closed, and we never know what the next hour or the next day will bring with it. And it is for 11 months already a terrible uncertainty, and sometimes when we hear the siren of an ambulance here in Warsaw, we are jumping, because this is part of the tension that we are absorbing for so long. And when at night at 3 a.m. I see my daughter with my 8 months old grandchild running to the shelter at my house, and the baby is smiling and happy, but I can see the horror in the eyes of my daughter. And this is the reality. Just 2 weeks ago, the school year started, and about 16,000 school students are away. They are searching a place to study. And I remember 2 years ago when I spoke to my friend from the Ukraine about your situation there in the Ukraine, and now we are in a similar situation where Russia and Iran and their proxies, like in Iran, are attacking us in Israel. And also the problem of thousands and thousands of children inside Israel, and never to ignore the terrible reality of children in the Gaza Strip, who are also in a terrible situation because of this war. And how it connects to Korczak and what we are doing here. And first of all, when I talk to my students, when I spoke to my APS students a year and a half ago, something like that, I asked them this question: who are we as educators? Should we do something to eliminate the boundaries between people, to fight tyranny and hate, to do something about our collapsing democracy? I remember APS students told me that they cannot do anything. Of course they can, and they could. And so with my colleagues and my former students in Israel, educators, as Marek said before, should be active, should be involved, should be not only obedient servants of the government, should have a voice to do something. And I believe that the heritage of Korczak should be part of it. We have, as educators, a place in our society, a voice that we should make our reality better. And as I remarked to you at the beginning yesterday, as scholars, as researchers, we look back. We cannot study or research something that is not happening yet. But as educators, an educator of educators, we are dealing with the future. We are dealing with what our kids, our students will do, and we have responsibility for the future of our society. And I believe that King Math I is a very important document in regard to this reality. Because Janusz Korczak, in theory, literature, art, asked these questions and gave an answer. And one document that is with us is King Math I. We are responsible for what is happening around us. Now, I just want to mention you are all Korczakians, you are all professional Korczakians, and you know these ideas, but an old and modern Jewish dream, we call it moral monotheism or moral atheism, that we have one God and one creation, one world and one humanity, and we should have also solidarity among all men and one ethics, joint ethics. And I believe this was the grand dream or the vision of Janusz Korczak, and we will see it in King Math I. I just mentioned here a few ideas that Jews outside Israel, in Europe, in other places, dreamed, like Moses Mendelssohn that followed Kant, about one ethics, world ethics. There is no Jewish morality or Christian morality, just human morality. Or Karl Marx about the dynamic of history. Sigmund Freud, the dynamic of psyche. We share the same psyche, all of us. Science, it's a mega messianic vision that all of us share the same problems, the same challenges like the COVID that we just had. Ludwig Zamenhof, there was a guy who spoke about one language, maybe it will bring all people together. And of course, Janusz Korczak, around that we'll all come together around the cause of the child. So, who is Janusz Korczak? I will jump on this slide because all of you, most of you, are really professional Korczakians, even better than I am. But King Matthew the First. Simple story, but as you all know, a child who becomes the king and tries to be the best king and to create a kingdom of equality and all men solidarity, and the adult figures in the book, in the story, fail him. And of course, all these leading adult characters, the doctor, the writer, the journalist, the military officer, the army officer, are all representatives of Korczak himself, admitting that he and other adults failed until now to create a world, a Korczak world of rights for children and for everyone. There is one general mistake that is already present here. Korczak was a philosopher not only for children, but for all society, all ages, all classes. Of course, he worked with children, he wrote to children, but the vision he created in the book is not only about children, it's about everyone. So let's see what we have in the book. For example, the loneliness of the child. Of course, the child is misunderstood. The child don't have his property. The child is abused in different parts of the world. Even today, this is another lecture, the reality of children in different parts of the world today, with hard labor, like Hatem who just spoke about it, and children who forced into armies or sexual abuse, and of course the neglect of medical services and good and enough food and etc., etc. But the loneliness of the child, as he wrote somewhere, Korczak, it is not a child, but a centuries weeping. It's a wine of pain and yearning, not because he was told to stand in the corner at school, but because he is oppressed, slave-driven, pushed around, and ostracized. Ostracized is expelling. War, honor, patriotism, and peace. I spoke about the war reality. The book is telling about the reality of war, the reality that adults like to engage in war, while the child wants to lead the country for peace with its surrounding people. And in the book you see the caricatures. And I can read it with the ministers in Israel today. The same caricatures of people who speak with big words about power and victory, and that let's crush them now and do that and that and that. And we know, and Korczak knew, he was a Polish patriot, he was a medical officer, but still he understood that wars are ugly, bloody. I know it from my own life as a military officer 100 years ago. So, as he wrote in the book, Matt distributed all sorts of medals during the festivities. The African kings hung their medals from their noses, and the European kings wore them on their chest. Everyone was happy. My daughter yesterday told me, why you got a medal without to hang it on the chest. But as you know, for many Jews, people wanted to be patriots of their place. and there were Jewish patriots in Germany, in Russia, in Poland, because they wanted to be part of society. And I have this picture, a guy in Polish army uniforms from the early 40s. This is my father. He was a kind of a Korczak in a way, a Polish intellectual and also a Polish patriot that never felt at home, but he wanted to be in Poland. Inter-race relations, of course, as Daniel said yesterday, the idea that we can be together with Africans, with people from Asia, and people all sorts will come together. If you see in this beautiful Polish stamp, Klu, the prince from Africa, and King Math became the best partners, the best friends, but as Math refused any romantic gestures from Klu, but and we can discuss his romantic affairs in his own early years in an early diary, but Korczak was critical about these divisions between different people from different races, different ethnicities, and so on. And as when he brought them together, the European kings said, "We are civilized king, and we do not wish to sit at the same table with these cannibals." So this idea that all men should come together. And then gender equality, of course. Klu was the best fighter for human rights in the book. And as you can see here, one of the pictures in one of the editions of King Mass. And she said in the book, "In my country, in Africa, the girls are as good as the boys in everything." So the idea of women equality and people from different genders, there were no issues of homosexualism then and so on, but everyone is a human being and should be together. And social idealism. The first book that Korczak wrote was The Children of the Street, the ideas of poverty. And in the book, one of the representations of Korczak, the doctor tells him, "No, Matt, there are very many children who are weak and sick. Many children live in unhealthy, damp, dark houses. They do not go out to the country. They do not eat enough and often go hungry, and so they become ill." This is the reality of Korczak. The Dr. Korczak is talking here in the book. So I'm coming to the closure of my presentation. The book became a very important book in Poland before World War II, and the beautiful poster stamps I had in my childhood step album, which I lost from Poland, and then a beautiful full-feature movie, King Mass I, now available online at the internet, and Batya helped me to put the Hebrew subtitles in the copy I have at home, and it became a worldwide document. We struggle a lot with more and more translations into English of Korczak writings. But who here read more than 2 volumes of it? But King Math is a worldwide document that we find it in at least 32 world languages: English, Russian, Hebrew, French, German, Ukrainian, Estonian, Latvian, Lithuanian, Belarusian, Czech, Bulgarian, Slovenian, Romanian, Italian, Spanish, Chinese, Korean, Georgian, Swedish, Turkish, Serbian, Dutch, Armenian, Albanian, modern Greek, Portuguese, Azerbaijani, Hungarian, Danish, Japanese, and even Esperanto. What I couldn't find, maybe I missed a language, I couldn't find any evidence of the book in Arabic, which I want, maybe it is available. But you see, I put the flags around, that we have an opportunity here to establish a world of Korczak, a global reality of Korczak network. The children and educators all over the world will read the same text with the same values and will share their ideas and will share their concerns, and maybe we'll develop a worldwide monotheistic Korczakian ideology, that we have to put aside all the divide lines, the traditional divide lines that we have, and be human beings like before the collapse of the Babylon Tower a few years ago. So this is what I propose to ICA, to be the center, and the center will be in Warsaw, of course. Korczak wrote that he hoped that it will be in Jerusalem. He wrote that a second League of Nations should be established in Jerusalem, and that will deal with children's rights. But of course, we know the reality of Jerusalem, the craziest place in the world today. But if we establish a network, a worldwide network, we can reestablish the kingdom of King Matthew worldwide. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Moshe Schner, for this very inspiring talk. And unfortunately, Professor Ira Vargas could not be with us due to some bureaucracy involved in issuing visas. So she is here with us today online, and she will present her final keynote of this morning in the form of a video. So here we go.
Hello, good morning, distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends. My name is Gita Vargas, and I represent the UNESCO Chair on Inclusion of People with Disabilities at Universidad Iberoamericana in the Dominican Republic. Dzień dobry. I am deeply honored to be here today as a recipient of the UNESCO Janusz Korczak Chair Jubilee Medal, and to share my insights on a topic that is very close to my heart, the inclusion of people with disabilities. As someone who has dedicated an important part of my career to advocating for the rights of people with disabilities, I have witnessed firsthand the transformative power of inclusive education, not only at the primary level, but also at higher education. Inclusion is not just a moral imperative, it is a cornerstone of sustainable development. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goals emphasize the need for inclusive and equitable quality education for all, and we'll be sharing our experience in a small island of the Caribbean through UNIBE's share on inclusion of people with disabilities and our contributions to the UN SDGs 2030 and to the social impact of higher education initiatives in the Dominican Republic. I will explain in a moment what it is, the work that we do at UNIBE, but first let me briefly introduce you to my country and to my university. The Dominican Republic, for those of you that don't know, is half of a small island in the Caribbean called La Hispaniola that we share with the Republic of Haiti. Our official language is Spanish, so I please beg you to, I hope I am doing a good job in Our population is around 10 million people. And we're best known for incredible beaches. Some of you might know Punta Cana, Puerto Plata, Samaná. Lineal City in Santo Domingo, our capital, is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It has the first cathedral, the first hospital, and the first university in the Americas. We're also known for merengue and bachata, if you like to dance. And of course, world-renowned cigar, rum, coffee, and cacao. About UNIVE, our Universidad Iberoamericana is a private institution with 5,000 students. We have 16 undergraduate programs and 27 graduate programs. Higher education institutions are spaces that require the diversity of experiences and perspectives, making inclusion a necessary condition to provide a transformative educational experience for all members of the academic community, including historically underrepresented minorities. At UNIVE, we try to create spaces through the UNESCO chair to not only serve student inclusion, but also the needs to intertwine inclusion in every aspect of the university's actions. As you can see here, inclusion at UNIVE will touch undergraduate, graduate programs. It also serves services for students that have disabilities, not only those to enter traditional programs at the university, but also a special program called Puedo that is created for students that have intellectual disabilities and cannot be admitted at the university due to our Ministry of Education's requirements. But we created a special program for those students to have an educational experience at higher education that I can explain later. We also touch inclusion through management at the university through our inclusion committee, research, extension services for not only the community at UNIVE, but also services for anyone that can be served from our country. We try to include programs and programming at continuing education. We work through the UNESCO chair to create transversal programs at the university at every level that touch inclusion. And then there are other programs like Project READ, which is a program that I will explain also later, that work with 400 schools, public schools in the public sector in the Dominican Republic that had a gender inclusion and safe school component also to it. It was a reading program, but it had this special inclusion program. We also work to better the physical aspect of our university and to create more physical accessibility, web accessibility, educational innovation, and of course, inclusive recruitment through our human resource department. Well, as one of UNIVE's values, this is a declaration of what all members of the community are expected to demonstrate regarding the respect of inclusion and diversity. It's basically a response to how we expect the community to value and to behave regarding inclusion. One of, I think, the most important determinations that the university did was include the topic of inclusion of people with disabilities and diversity in general as a transversal axis in our strategic planning. This means that all academic and administrative planning must consider how they contribute to this goal and ensure sustainable, long-lasting changes to the culture of inclusion in the university. So this axis that has to do with community well-being, inclusivity, and plurality ensures an inclusive and plural university culture. And every department in the university needs to align their programming to contribute to this axis. And this, of course, makes it very easy for the university to continually contribute to the inclusion of people with disability and to create sustainable and long-lasting changes in the university's programming. The UNESCO Chair on Inclusion of People with Disability was established to address the barriers faced by individuals with disabilities in all aspects of their life, social, work, and academic, especially accessing higher education. Our objectives include promoting inclusive policies, developing accessible educational resources, and fostering a culture of acceptance and support within academic institutions. Here are some pictures of our mural of inclusion. It was a UNESCO Chair initiative, and it basically was created to make permanent and visible our efforts on inclusion. This is a great wall that is at the center of the university. So what we did was we sent a question to people with and without disabilities that said, what does inclusion look like? Please make a picture of it. And we received around 30 pictures that were created by people with and without disabilities on how inclusion looked. Then we took all these pictures and we created them in a great mural at bigger scale and sketched it so people with visual disabilities could feel it through their hands, and then invited everyone to paint it. And this is a visible mural of the university's commitment to doing inclusion, and a reminder in daily academic life that inclusion is part of our most valuable values and accesses for programming. This is Jose Ricardo Gil, a known Dominican artist with Down syndrome that also collaborated to the mural. There he is. Well, and getting down to the most important part of the conference, the inclusion, the importance of the inclusion of people with disabilities, right? Since the second half of the 20th century, there's been a growing movement of activism and advocacy for the rights of people with disabilities. This led to the adoption of international conventions such as the United Nations Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities in 2006, which emphasized the importance of inclusion and equal opportunities in all areas of life, including education. Many countries have implemented laws and policies that promote the inclusion of people with disabilities in higher education. These measures include the removal of physical barriers, access to support resources and accommodations, and ensuring equal opportunities in access and participation for all. Inclusive education has gained further recognition and support in recent decades. There has been a shift from the segregated approach where people with disability were excluded from regular education to an approach that seeks the full and meaningful participation of all students, including those with disabilities, in common educational environments. Technological advances have further boosted opportunities for inclusion of people with disabilities in higher education through assistive devices, technological adaptation, and support tools such as screen readers, voice recognition software, and augmentative and alternative communication systems. These have greatly facilitated access and participation of people with disabilities in the educational setting. This image is a visual representation of what we strive for, what we value, the elimination of barriers. At the first image, as you can see, it is assumed that everybody will benefit from the same supports and they are being treated equally. They each get a support, but still not everybody can access. In the second image, individuals are given different supports to make it possible for them to have equal access to the game, but they're being even though they're being treated equitably, still there is a barrier that needs accommodations to be put in place for them to access. In this third image of all three, we can see a game without any supports for accommodation, and this is what we strive for, the elimination of all barriers. And I think this is a very interesting visual image that also makes us think about inclusion, not only for something that will benefit people with disabilities, but something that we will all benefit from at some point of our lives. Some of the current challenges and conditions for effective inclusion. we need to note that while there have been significant advancements in the inclusion of people with disabilities in higher education, there are still a lot of challenges and gaps that need to be addressed to ensure effective and meaningful inclusion for all students. Only 16% of people with disabilities living in the Dominican Republic have attained a higher education qualification, compared to the 22% of the population without disabilities. Furthermore, little or nothing is known about the quality of their education through inclusive education practices. For people with disabilities to have equitable access and meaningful participation, including an environment conducive to academic success, certain conditions must be guaranteed to eliminate barriers. These conditions include access and admission, and people would have equal opportunity for academic program access, accessible environments in the physical and technological aspects, curricular adaptation and inclusive methodologies so everybody can have access to education, support services, awareness and training, and participation and empowerment. Current models of disability attention focus on the barrier-free model and are based on the human rights approach. UNIVE's share has made substantial strides in improving quality education for students with disabilities who attend UNIVE facilities by making its facilities more accessible and by creating a support unit that provides accommodation to our student body. The university has ensured that inclusion is embedded in its strategic planning, as I said before, and in its educational model. This important action translates into a gradual transformation of services and initiatives by the university. And I think this is a very important word, gradual, because of course there are still things that we need to do. But if we keep this in mind, I think we can gradually move forward to transformation, continued transformation throughout the years. This resulted in the creation of an Inclusion and Diversity Committee and the creation of institutional policies that promote inclusion. And from there on, a lot of the initiatives start. This is images of recurrent teacher meetings on diversity and inclusion. Every semester, teachers have an encounter where they can talk about teacher experiences in education and inclusion and share best practices between each other. This is teachers from all the graduate and undergraduate programs are invited, especially those that have been identified as having students with disabilities in their classroom. By ensuring that people with disabilities have access to quality education, we are directly contributing to SDG 4, which aims to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promotes lifelong learning opportunities for all. We are also contributing to SDG 8, decent work and economic growth, through creating diplomas in labor inclusion, work inclusion pact with the Dominican Ministry of Labor. We create job fairs within the university for people with disabilities, and we promote inclusive recruitment with private institutions. We also contribute with SDG 10, reduced inequalities, as we create institutional policies and inclusion and diversity. We create annual inclusion events and awards, continued education, and other programming that contributes to SDG 10. We contribute to SDG 11 by breaking down barriers to education, but also by creating a progressive adaptation of infrastructure. So the campus is more accessible and therefore contributes to sustainable cities and communities. SDG 17, partnership of the goals, through collaborative work with various institutions that work to promote the rights of people with disabilities. This is the library resource guide to inclusion and diversity. It includes all academic production from UNIVE and documentation related to the topic. These are just briefly mentioned some of the achievement and initiatives that the university has won awards. These are awards that are given by the National Council on Disabilities and the PNUD, which is the UN for development. It's the United Nations Development Program. And they together give awards called RD Incluye, like Dominican Republic includes, and they recognize institutions that strive and achieve inclusive practices. So we've been getting a few awards since the year 2007 when the award started, and we have won awards every year since then until the year 2022. That was the last year of the event, and they concluded by giving us a special award for Agent of Inclusion, which means that we have covered numerous amount of awards through every year of the program, and they basically bestow that that award for the job that we've been doing. As part of our university committee on inclusion and diversity, this is next to the mural of inclusion that I showed you before. Some of the recognitions done by RD Incluye. This is some pictures of the Week of Inclusion. It's a yearly event that we create to promote the rights of people with disabilities. And we do a whole week of free activities in the university that has to do with other partners. We do academic activities, but we also do sensibilization activities, and we include students from every of the undergraduate and graduate programs in the activities. Here's one of our best speakers in the Week of Inclusion. You might know her. Professor Ana Odro-Wascuates was also one of our keynote speakers a few years ago when she presented a topic on inclusion in children with mental illness, a bird's eye perspective on policy and practicing in Poland. It was a beautiful presentation by Professor Odro-Wascuates. Thank you, Ana. There she is. These are more pictures of the activities that we do. This is some of the sensibilization activities where people, we work not only with students, but also with administrative personnel in the university. Since we're short on time, I'll keep on moving, and let's get to the challenges and gaps. Despite the progress we've made, which is significant, there are still significant challenges that need to be addressed to ensure a truly inclusive society. Social stigma, public policy, poverty, limited access to education, work inclusion, local information and statistics, accessibility for all, and of course coverage for healthcare services and technical supports tend to be one of the big gaps and challenges that we need to continue working on. Specifically for me, I think public policy is very necessary, not only to create policy, because we have policy in the Dominican Republic, but there's a lack of enforcement of those policies to be followed by the population. And I think this is a very important topic to enforce in order to continue making improvement when we're talking about disabilities. To guarantee equitable access and participation for people with disabilities in our educational institution, it's not only a matter of compliance, but also a commitment that we need to forge to foster an inclusive environment where everyone can thrive. So we need to think about very intentionally on how we create a space for inclusion in decision-making in the curriculum. To begin with, inclusion must start at the decision-making level. Training professionals to think inclusively is crucial. Building opportunities and removing barriers. And this means involving people with disabilities in the curriculum development decision-making processes to truly be an inclusive educational experience. We need to create equal opportunities in academic programs. Access are very fundamental. And this includes providing disability services during the recruitment and admission, ensuring that students that they are disabled are not left behind. There has to be admission quotas and scholarship programs specifically for students with disabilities, so they can help bridge the gap and promote diversity within our institutions. An accessible environment is essential for full participation, meaning that we need to provide facilities and assistive technologies that cater to the needs of all the students, whether it's ramps, elevators, specialized software, tools, to enable students with disabilities to engage fully in the educational journey. We need to do adjusting teaching methods and assessments. It's a very key aspect of guaranteeing equitable access and participation. Curricular adaptation and inclusive methodologies ensure that all students, including those with cognitive disabilities, can access and benefit from the education provided. We need to tailor these programs to meet the diverse needs and help create a more equitable learning environment. Support services are vital for the success of students, faculty, and staff with disabilities. So specialized support, counseling, and services provided the necessary assistance to navigate academic and personal challenges. These services can help create a supportive, inclusive community. And finally, awareness and training are an essential component of the inclusive educational environment. Training for faculty, administrative staff, and students helps build a culture of understanding and respect. Recurrent meetings, as we talked about before, and extracurricular activities can further promote inclusion and ensure that everyone is aware of the needs of people with disabilities. In conclusion, as we conclude our discussion at the UNIVA Chair of Inclusion with Disabilities, it's essential to reflect on the profound impact that inclusive education can have in our society. The contributions to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals for 2030 and the social impact of higher education initiatives in the Dominican Republic are not just a theoretical concept, but tangible realities that we are actively shaping. Inclusion is not merely a policy or a program. It is a commitment to recognizing and valuing the diverse abilities and potential of every individual. By fostering inclusive environments, we're not only enhancing the educational experience for people with disabilities, but also enriching our entire community. This commitment aligns seamlessly with the UN SDG goals, particularly those who are focused on quality education, reduced inequalities, and decent work and economic growth. Our efforts at UNIVA are a testament to what we can achieve when we prioritize inclusivity, from adapting curricula to meet diverse needs, to ensuring accessible facilities and technologies, to providing specialized support services. We are paving the way for a more equitable and just society. These initiatives are not only about meeting immediate needs, but about laying the foundations for long-term sustainable development. The progress we have made is significant, but our journey is far from over. We must continue to advocate for policies that support inclusion, invest in resources that facilitate accessibility, and foster a culture of respect and understanding. And by doing so, we're not only contributing to the SDG goals, but also ensuring that higher education serves a powerful catalyst for social change. In conclusion, guaranteeing equitable access and participation requires a comprehensive approach that includes inclusive decision-making, accessible environments, curricular adaptations, support services, and ongoing awareness and training. By committing to these principles, we can create an educational environment where everyone has the opportunity to succeed. Advancing inclusion and protecting the rights of people with disabilities is not only a question of human rights, but also a strategic necessity for sustainable development. By recognizing the unique needs of the population and implementing these targeted policies, we can create a more inclusive and resilient society. As we celebrate the 20th anniversary of the UNESCO Janus Korczak Chair in Social Pedagogy, let us reaffirm our commitment to inclusivity. Let us envision a future where every person, regardless of their abilities, has the opportunity to contribute to and benefit from the advancements in education and society. Together, we can create a world where inclusion is the norm and not the exception, and where the potential of every individual is recognized and celebrated. Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the program.
Thank you very much, Professor. I hope you have seen yourself on the Zoom channel and on our stream. We will be publishing this on our website after the conference. So this session has run over time a little bit, but don't worry, we have some time saved, so everything will be as it should be, and we will have lunch on time. But for now, there is a coffee break in the corner there. And please come back after 15 minutes so we can start the next session dedicated to Korczak. It's a special session entitled Korczak-Inspired Contemporary Discourses on Children's Rights. Thank you very much. Okay, welcome back after the break. I hope you enjoyed countryside cakes that come all the way from Mars, because the bakers who make them are called Mars Bakery, so, you know, far, far from outer space. Okay, we are waiting for a Korczak session, special session for our 20th anniversary. I see that our speakers are slowly gathering. We think we make it more homely, more cozy by arranging this sofa, but Batia, you'll be speaking first, so if you could sit here, it would be very helpful. I would like to introduce to you 4 very prominent Korczakians. Ms. Batia Gilad, the chairperson from Israel, Dr. Avid Sur from the Korczak Education Center in Israel, Agata Skalska, Research Archive Janusz Korczak from Düsseldorf University in Germany, Arie de Bruin, chairman of the Janusz Korczak Foundation from Netherlands. And this is also the order of the presentations. We will try to wrap up in a good time, so it's very good that you came back on time to start this session. And whenever you're ready. Which one is yours?
I think this one.
Okay, we have 2 similar looking ones. This is Agata, maybe. No, it must be this one. Try. What's the...
That's me.
That's you. Okay, so maybe yours is language of love?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's not you. So it will be this one.
This one,
Okay. Okay, we've got it. So, Batia Gilad, the floor is yours, and a microphone too.
Thank you very much, Anna. It's just strange to come here and to talk about love when the world around is full of hate, war, and killed people and children who are suffering all around the world. But in Korczak writings, we can find much love, and I want to talk about it. So there are many diverse types of love, including love for a spouse, for children, for a parent, for a close friend, and for an animal, for a place, food, and more. Despite the centrality of love in our lives, language does not differentiate between different types of love, and the same word is used for all of them. We can find much love in Korczak writings, 15 volumes, that thanks to Marta we have them. And there we can find a thought about love. What is love, writes Korczak? No one really knows, because love is something that we understand. It is felt. Do we always love in the same capacity, as at times do we love more or love less? Do we always love when we understand that we must love? What is the difference between to like very much and to love? How do we know who we love more? What is the difference between the love and the value? Sometimes we don't know if we simply like someone, and only when the person isn't around to do, we suddenly feel lonely and emptiness, orphaned, as if he was the one and the only person in the world, and now there is no one. And we wish for him to return so that we can once again be together. Is it called longing? How to Love a Child is in my eyes, is the very important book of Korczak that was written during brief stops of a few hours during World War I. There Korczak describes the child in 4 different situations. The child in the family, in boarding school, during summer camps, and in the orphanage. Common to all parts is the focus on the child in different settings and stages of life and growth. The book was written at the time when people began to consider the child, his word, his imagination, uniqueness, thoughts, desires, feelings, experiences, and needs. At the same time when childhood started to be considered as a significant period for development for which personality was built. At the core of this approach is the concept that Korczak often used, to know the child. The child as a person from the moment of birth, no longer confident by adult constraints, but on one who has their own will and opinion, an independent personality with rights and responsibilities. The role of the adults is to help the child, to lead and guide him on her through life's experiences, to show them the way so they grow to be useful citizens in society, in Korczak's own words. The language Korczak uses in the book, How to Love the Child, stems from his professional and educational experience and is no less importantly from the path he chose. He relates in the book to several aspects that affect the child in the framework in which he lives. The child as an individual, the child in a society with responsibility for himself and the environment, and the figure of the educator, his role and personality. The language Korczak uses is empathic to the child. It's one where the child is in the center, and the writing, although aimed to adults, is equally directed at the child. One can identify shades of tenderness, concern, support, smiles, warmth, security, and above all, the constant dialogue with the child, which is certainly the language of love. The book expresses more than anything the concern for the child. The child as an individual, the child as a part of peer group and society in general. In Korczak's writing style, one can find his professional and educational experience, which is in the basis for the unique approach to the child that he developed. The writing excels sensitively with perhaps the most significant expression of love he felt for the little people to whom he dedicated his life. From his writings, one can be impressed that the entire purpose of his actions, thoughts, and mission were to give love to children. Love that was expressed first and formed in concern for their welfare and their preparation for adult life. Korczak's attitude towards the child as a person from the day of birth expressed his line of thought. There are no children, there are people. Only with a different range of a concept, with a different store of experience, different drives, a different play of emotions. The child, the person, sorry, I lost my, okay. The child, the person worthy of attention and help in their life path. The closer the caregiver is to the child, the more he will perceive in him qualities that are worthy of his attention. The development of Korczak thinking from the beginning of his work in the orphanage and even before as a counselor in summer camps is expressed in his early writings, Children of the Street, Child of the Drawing Room, which express the concern of criticism of adult society, but with themselves and not seeing the child, the person and their special needs. Even as a doctor in the summer camps, Korczak identified the special needs of children, the need for attention from adults. Isn't this love? In all his writings for children and adults, we can see and feel his love expressed in different ways, but all focus on the child's well-being. And I know a boy who got into fights, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. He could not come to grips with this fault of his. I advised him, have 1 fight a day. He agreed. He had a strong will. At first, we bet on 7 fights, then on 6, 1, 5, or 4, 3, 2, 1 fight a week. Finally, on 0, not even 1. Then he started betting on arguments. I remember the last time he won. Isn't this solution, which considers the children's abilities instead of punishment or agreement that the child will take on a commitment that he probably cannot fulfill, isn't it love? In each of his writings, one can sense and feel the love be felt towards the child as an individual and children as a group. The thought of building a children's society with a clear structure where every child has a place and a significant role for the whole community. Building a supportive, encouraging society that primarily educates toward a responsible life, not only for oneself, but also for others and towards society. Leon Breder Glusman, former child of the orphanage, described it. The little ones, together with the adults, took part in the management of the home. We had our own parliament, court and paper, which was the true chronicle of life at the home. The children took part in resolving many problems. Every day the tasks were divided between all. The children themselves were responsible for cleanliness, helped in the kitchen, with the meals, in the library, looked after those who were ill and helped the younger children in completing their homework. This is the way to teach the young person to obey the framework's laws and at the same time to think, criticize, learn, and find a way to be an integral part of society. Being observant of the uniqueness of the children within the society by providing tools for maximizing abilities, personal development, and providing practical tools for this, these two are expressed of love. Korczak's strong desire to delve into depth of the child's world, to understand it and help them, is the permanent line in his writing and action for children. He does not write top-down, but as an artist with the children living with him. He tries to bring the adult world closer to children to make it easier for them. Korczak's sensitivity to children in general, and orphan children in particular, is expressed in the action of writing and brings to our attention not only understanding and sympathy, but mainly love, which means understanding difficulties, providing tools for coping with empathy and not pity, understanding the child's world and standing by their side whenever they need it. In a similar way, he does this through the children's newspaper, Mały Przegląd, a newspaper by and for children, in which he, as a part of the children's editorial board, publishes children's letters on which he responds with deep understanding and serious consideration of the child's complaint and pain. I'm in the 5th grade. I love school very much, but one teacher is poisoning my life. In 1st grade, we had a kind-hearted and good-tempered teacher. but from second grade onwards, she became our tyrann. Korczak answers. The letter is long, yes, calculated. It seems that the teacher is a highly responsible worker and person of full bitterness and right up. It hurts. Korczak's starting point is accepting and understanding the complaint, understanding the child who wrote, in defining with their desires, but doesn't leave it at this level. He also gives practical advice, a possible solution. And maybe this: buy a flower pot, go to her apartment, and in the end, the precious stone of tempt will remain. And if it works? Korczak, through his rich language and educational writing, manages to express his deep belief in the child's power and ability to confront life's challenges. He insists that experience, even if it involves failure, has great and meaningful value. His approach stems from an understanding of the difficulties and challenges facing children and places them on a path where they can extreme and learn from their experiences. Through his stories, Korczak aimed to guide and support children in their self-development, offering them opportunities to realize their dreams and express their creativity. He invites young readers to participate in the writing process and see themselves as a part of the literary world, reflecting his belief in the potential and capabilities of children. He does not just tell stories, but actively works to change and support children's understanding and coping abilities. His educational approach centers on the belief that children have the power to shape their future, even when life's reality is complex and challenging. It's just not pleasant when they finish reading and add explanations. Despite this statement, he intervenes in the stories to explain and comment on the importance of learning, on poverty, on wealth, on behavior, or understanding certain situations. Pasteur, also at the end of the book, The Stubborn Boy in the Life of Louis Pasteur, he writes, Pasteur also said this: blessed is the man who carries in his soul God, the vision of beauty and art, love of science and love of homeland. These are forever and ever the living spirit of noble ideas and great deeds. At the end of the story, Glory, he writes, children, your goals should be noble, your ideas lofty, ascend toward the light of glory. The aspiration for good is not in vain. Something will always happen. He converses with the readers, draws their attention to various matters, and even involves young readers in the craft of writing. And try to write, each of you, in your spare time, and think something new and additional, and there perhaps you will indeed succeed. Korczak is mission-oriented, believes in abilities, advocates for experimenting, and believes in success. In Kajtek the Wizard, Kajtek builds many magical worlds in which he realizes private and general dreams. This is a love story that expresses the desire of the child who is weak in terms of status and society. Korczak expressed belief in the abilities of the child, both the weak and the strong. This is the clear explanation of love, not in the empty words, but through thought, encouragement, guidance, and belief in their ability. In his most famous stories, King Met the First that we had Moshe talking about, and King Met on the desert island, Met, really Korczak, fulfills the dreams of the heroes of his other books, like Glory and Kajtek the Magician. He is a child who will become a king. That is a person who is given all the possibilities to control the environment and benefit humankind. One can and should dream, even if reality is different in a complex and not easy world. But Korczak mainly expressed faith in people without ignoring the difficulties. In his own way, he succeeded to identify with the world of children, to be their advocate out of love that is expressed in his 30 years of creation and work with and for children. Coming to an end, I wish to quote Anne-Marie Skelton, chair of the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child, from her closing words at the last meeting of CRC a month ago. Children in Israel, children in Gaza and in the West Bank are suffering unspeakable horrors. The Convention on the Rights of the Child, which this committee oversees, is the only human rights convention that includes the word love. The preamble recognizing that children should grow up in an atmosphere of happiness, love, and understanding. It's also said that children should be brought up in a spirit of peace, dignity, tolerance, freedom, equality, and solidarity. On a personal note, children are suffering wherever there is a war. Our duty is to put a stop to it and to fulfill the promise in the spirit of Korczak and in the convention, to enable children to grow up in an atmosphere of love and to live in peace. And in Korczak words, many times we had considered what advice to give them. Unfortunately, words are poor and weak. We do not give a God, we do not give you a homeland, we do not give you love for people because there is no love without forgiveness. But to forgive, it's toil, a labor, each must undertake alone. We give you only this, yearning for a better life that does not exist, but will come one day, yearning for a life of truth and justice. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Batya. Avi is getting ready. Welcome, Dr. Avi Tsur.
Good afternoon to everybody. My topic is caring for the child's rights and responsibilities. And my talk today, I will cover Articles 3, 5, 19, and 31, not 32, of the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Okay. Theory and practice. Parties, this is Article 31 of the CRC. Parties will recognize the right of the child to rest and leisure, to engage in play and recreational activities appropriate to the age of the child, and to participate freely in cultural life and the arts. Korczak writes, children want to laugh, run, and frolic. And as educators, we are responsible for bringing this about, which is not an easy task, not today. Insofar as Korczak is concerned, these are sports or games that existed at the home, in both homes, Nash Dom and Dom Shirot. So sport, at the summer camps that they used to go to, they used to have Olympics, summer Olympics. And there was swimming, kayak sailing, athletics, ping pong, basketball, volleyball, football, boxing, and more. All of these sports still exist today. And as far as games are concerned, there is strength games, standing on one leg, or arm pull downs, long jump, 3 sticks, spitting, who could spit the furthest, card and board games, fun games, etc. I'm going to show you some pictures, authentic pictures, to demonstrate this, just so that you know that I'm not pulling a fast one on you. So the pictures are from both Nash Dom and Dom Shirot, which is very important for me to show that the legacy of Korczak existed identically in both homes. So here we have pictures of football and volleyball, kayaking, swimming, outdoor and indoor activities. The indoor activities were just as important. At Dom Shirot, for example, the indoor games were played in the main hall, which was also the dining room, but also where the kids did their homework. And in the winter, they played the games there as well. Here you've got a picture of the theater. And it's important for me again to emphasize that Korczak wrote many of the performances, many of the plays that were performed by the children. The last one, we all know, The Post Office, was performed in the ghetto on the 18th of July, 1942. It was a couple of weeks before they were deported to Treblinka. And that really is the only play, if I'm not mistaken, that was not written by Korczak himself. And Igor Neverly asked him when he came to the performance why he chose that particular play to perform, for the children to perform. And Korczak's answer was very, very clear. I am preparing the children for what is about to take place. And we all know that on the 21st of July, the deportations to the final solution to the deportation of the children began. Not only the children, the Warsaw residents. One of the very important things about Korczak was observing. He would observe the children at play, observe them in whatever they were doing, and from that, he actually wrote. He used to write on slips of paper, which he kept in his pocket, and in the evenings, at the night, he would take out these slips of paper and do his writing. Korczak writes, on the basis of my observation of children at summer camp, I can state firmly that a normal child always prefers playing ball, racing, swimming, or climbing trees to withdrawing secretly into a corner for dreams known only to him. Very important, the last part of that quote. Secretly into a corner for dreams known only to him. Remember that, because I will come to that. Korczak is the champion of children's rights. And here we have a list that is compiled by UNICEF. There's also a list of Korczak's rights in Betty Jean Lifton's book. But Korczak did not make a list of children's rights. You have to read Korczak and pick out. You have to choose the rights that he relates to, because I think that in every book, in every piece of writing of Korczak, he dedicates special time and thought to children's rights. This is the list, and again I've highlighted the one that for me today is important for my talk, and that is the child has a right to best conditions for his growth and development. But that's the entire list, probably not an entire list, it's not my list, but that's a list of Korczak's rights. This is from 1923 from Nash Dom, minutes of the General Assembly of the members of the Nash Dom Association, in which they write, contemporary education is permeated with the principle that the educator, or in the new version of selected works, the caretaker, is accountable to society for its children. Today, taking into account that this is an orphanage, but today we know who is accountable for the children's, for the child. It's not just the educator, it is home. It's the parents, not just, we cannot say to the educators, the teachers today, why don't you do this? Or why? Education begins at home with the parents. So in actual fact, all of us, adults, educators, parents, grandparents, okay, who is responsible for the child? It's all of our business. It's mine and it's yours. In actual fact, it's ours, not just yours, and it's all of us who have to take this into account. Again, that is Article 31. I'm now coming to the articles. Article 31, which I'm not going to read again, but please remember the age of the child and to participate freely in cultural life and the arts. And this brings me to a very serious problem. Digital environments. Today, in classes, children, we see them, all of them, most of them, maybe not all of them, but most of them, there's less reading and there's more playing with digital environments. And this has become a serious danger, which I think as adults we should address. There are many, many negative effects of digital environments. These are some of them, and soon you'll get a better picture of all of these that are written here. And this isn't something made up by Avi. This is medical information brought out by professionals who have gone into this deeply and come up with all of the dangers that are faced from cell phones and the digital environment. These are some of the dangers that children face. Korczak, already in 1918, doesn't relate to the digital environment, but he does write, much has changed. Games and play are no longer condescendingly tolerated. The changes are happening by the hour. The mentality of the average paterfamilias and the caregiver cannot keep up. A child cannot distinguish the important from the trivial. Order and systematic labor are foreign to him. Absent-minded, he forgets, ignores, and neglects. So in other, he wasn't familiar, obviously, with cell phones and computers and things like that, but he had this very strong awareness inside him who could foresee the changes that were taking place, and we are now living in a world where the changes are daily. Technology is really taking over in our world. Okay. On social media, you can play games with videos, listen to music, chat, find out what is happening in your local area, all of which fit in beautifully with Article 31. All of that is written in Article 31. And we must remember children's rights, they have the right to this. And how then can we counter any of this if we say the children has the right and we should go ahead with what the child thinks? But how is it affecting your mental health and your social encounters? Korczak does not give an answer, because each and every one of us seated here today, we're all very heterogeneous group. You relate to your family, to your children, each of us in different ways. So Korczak very often asks questions. He does not give us the solution. He leaves the solution to us to sit either with family members, at schools, within committees, with school teachers, educators, and to come up with a solution that is suitable for your setup, suitable for your family, suitable for your school. Schools are different. The population of schools is different. So he doesn't give us answers. These are some of the guidelines that he gives us, but again, he does not give us the answers. How do we safeguard against the individual's ill will and madness? How do we fill the hours of life with labor, rest, and recreation? And how do we fend off apathy and boredom? How do we facilitate understanding? Where do we distribute and divide up? Speed and encouragement here, restraint there, ignite here, extinguish there. Morally and legally responsible with knowledge and foresight, we are the sole judges of children's actions, movements, thoughts, and intentions. If we take all of those points and sit down together and try to work out solutions or answers to these questions, Korczak does not give us the answer. He leaves it upon us. He depends on our thoughts of how we feel we can overcome the problems of today. If this was a workshop, I would have left the previous slide open and we could have together come up with some solutions. However, there's no time for that. So here are some of the solutions, again, using the rights of the child, the CRC, to help us. Because Article 31, we saw the child has the right to fun and games and laughter. Yes, but at the same time, Article 3 ensures the child such protection and care as is necessary for his or her well-being. That is our duty. Article 5, respect the rights and responsibilities of families to direct and guide their children so that as they grow, they learn to use their rights properly. And Article 19, protect the child from all forms of physical or mental violence, injury or abuse, neglect or negligent treatment, maltreatment, or exploitations. So within the rights of the child, within the CRC, there are solutions for us, for the adults, for the parents, for the educators, to combat the ill effects of Article 31, which is great, but it's not everything. Here, Korczak does give us not a solution, but a direction. And I'm coming to an end. What is called for is neither despotic command, nor imposed discipline, nor untrusting control, but tactful understanding, trust in experience, cooperation and coexistence, respect for his or her lack of knowledge. We need to caution, guide, drill, contain, rein in, correct, warn, prevent, impose, and please note, combat is underlined by me, not by Korczak. Combat frowns, caprices, and stubbornness. Why combat? Because parents of today do not know how to say no. Because we want peace and harmony in the household. And if we say no, the child, there's an uproar, or either the child cries, and after 2-3 minutes of crying, we say, okay. So that he leaves to us. And of course, it's like father and son. What Korczak is really telling us, and I say this to educators as much as I say this to families, parents, etc., what we really need is to be good role models. I know that in many lectures, in many situations, when I look around, I see so many people engrossed in their cell phones while the lecture or while teaching is taking place. At home, I know many parents come home and don't have time for their children because either they're carrying on with their business transactions through the cell phone or whatever the case may be. But basically what Korczak is telling us is we need to be good role models. Us adults, role models for the child. How do you foresee, how do you protect a butterfly over the bubbling stream of life? How do you make it hardy and not burden its flight? Fortify it without wearing out its wings with one's own example. Then, with help, advice, a word. Thank you very much.
For the academic angle and for the practical angle, very helpful, very useful. I'd like to invite Agata Skalska from Germany, who is our next speaker today. Fantastic. That's for you.
So, hello, nice to see you all here. I will today speak about the image of the child from Janusz Korczak, but I will first speak a little bit about the sociological perspective of childhood, and then take this insights into Korczak's writings. So, before the 1980s, the child has been seen as a becoming, not an adult yet, not a people yet, but a becoming. And since the 1980s, the child has been seen as a human being. Throughout the 1990s, the concept of the child as a social actor and child's agency emerged. This perspective is embedded in the concept of generational order, which always involves power dynamics between generations, adults and children. With the concept of the child as an actor, children are viewed as competent agents with many social resources. It can be said that the concept of the child as an actor has led a radical shift in how children are perceived. The previous deficit-oriented view focused on children as becomings, that is, as adults in the making, has shifted to viewing children as unconditionally competent. Children are now seen as capable and empowered agents and beings acknowledged as autonomous subjects. Furthermore, children are attributed with an innate agency, which, however, is systematically undermined by societal structures and adults. In the recent years, the paradigm has shifted again, as the naturalistic view of children as social actors has given way to a relational perspective. The relational view of agency seeks to overcome the dualism between children's agency by focusing on social relationships. The focus is not on individual actors anymore, but on the relationships between them, which shape their ability to act. Thus, children's agency is not seen as a pre-social, but is brought about by the relationships with other social actors. Agency is therefore understood as an effect of social relationships. The perspective of vulnerability can be compared to the views on children's agency, where it is debated whether it is naturally given or relationally produced. However, not only children's agency, but also their vulnerability as a competing concept is not a pre-social characteristic. Instead, it must be viewed within the framework of generational orders and therefore as relational. On one hand, vulnerability is often seen as a natural trait of the child, meaning that the child is always, in particular, need of protection. On the other hand, from a historical and knowledge-based perspective, it is also questioned how through certain practices of other humans, and here adults, and relations in society, the vulnerable child is produced. When viewed rationally, the child's vulnerability is always an indicator of existing generational orders and also reflects something about adults and the behavior within these orders. The anthropological and social constructivist perspectives on the vulnerability of the child are not exclusive. Rather, it can be fruitful to integrate both views into a comprehensive image of the child to capture its multidimensional facts. Understanding the child's vulnerability in a relational way, however, has the advantage that it requires adults to take responsibility for the potentially harmful behavior. Now we come to Korczak. According to Korczak, a child finds themselves in a world where they are disadvantaged, limited, and disregarded simply because they are a child. This situation is largely created by adults and their actions towards children. He criticizes the assumption that adults are inherently superior to children. From a very young age, a child learns that they are not as important as adults. Korczak describes this experience with keen observation. It's frustrating when one stands on tiptoe and still achieves nothing. It is tiresome to toddle along with tiny steps behind the adults. The glass slips from the small hand. The child thus experiences that world is designed for adults, and they are in a state of not yet being grown up, and therefore in a state of becoming. In everyday life, the child learns that due to their smaller size and physical strength, they rely on the help and support of adults. In his works, such as Dom Sierat and Summer Colonies, Korczak focuses on his educational practice and life with children. He also emphasizes how valuable collaboration with children is and notes that without them, it would be impossible to achieve even a fraction of what can be accomplished together. So he sees the agency in children. In his own orphanage, he deliberately avoids having too many adult staff because he don't want bullies in his house. In Korczak's view, the child learns through observation exactly what adults expect from them and what they need to do to satisfy those expectations and to get what they want. Korczak attributes a high level of competence to children in adapting to these demands, which helps them navigate their lives more easily. The child, 100 masks, 100 roles of a talented actor. The child differentiates between various adults and their expectations, showing different behaviors, sometimes naive, sometimes clever, sometimes arrogant, or well-behaved. Here the child is portrayed as a highly competent person who, due to their disadvantaged position, must find other ways to meet their needs and desires. For Korczak, being a capable child who can handle challenges does not mean that the child is not also vulnerable. On one hand, the child shows alertness and strength, while on the other hand, they also shows fragility, imbalance, and exhaustion. As Korczak notes, neither the doctors nor the educators know whether the child is an indestructible or a chronically exhausted being. Korczak illustrates both aspects through his works. In The Child in the Family, he begins by describing the newborn child as a little blade of grass, a speck of dust, and nothing. The child is fragile, that even a bacterium much smaller than the child can cause its death. Yet, in the next sentences, Korczak explains that this nothing is a living brother of the sea wave, the storm, the lightning, the sun. Korczak describes the child as a true sibling to these phenomena, not as a younger brother, but as an equal one. This suggests that despite its small size and vulnerability, the child has the capability to achieve great things. Korczak thus balances the child's vulnerability with its potential for action. In the orphanage, Korczak tries to protect the children through a court system which also represents both the child's capacity for action and their vulnerability. Korczak believes that the children possesses abilities such as sound judgment and a sense of justice, allowing them to responsibly participate in the court, report issues, handle complaints, and deal with their actions. The children are not only supported in actively participating in social matters, but are also encouraged to shape them. They have a say in all matters affecting them. However, since not all children can care for themselves equally, the court has an additional role in protecting vulnerable children. For Korczak, this includes quiet children who need protection from aggressive and intrusive peers, as well as diligent and hardworking children who need protection from careless and lazy ones. Thus, the institution of the collegial court is portrayed not only as a place where children's agency is acknowledged, but also a protective mechanism for the child. The discussion clearly shows that for Korczak, a child is both capable and resilient, as well as vulnerable at the same time. Now I will stretch my interpretation a bit, and I hope you will correct me if I'm totally wrong. But Korczak's choice of the title, The Right of the Child to Respect, already includes both aspects. Szacunek, the word which is used in Polish, means that the child must be respected and valued for their abilities. On the other hand, szacunek is related to the word szanować, which means not only to respect but also to protect and preserve, indicating that the child must also be shielded and protected. So both perspectives are reflected in Korczak's title, even though theorists of childhood have only recently reached this understanding. And these perspectives are reflected in his actions, in Korczak's actions. As mentioned, a child shows agency when it has the opportunity to do so, like an effect of relations. And Korczak ensures this relationship with his way of dealing with children and his pedagogical practice, so that the children are able to develop and show their agency in the present. Thank you.
Thank you, Agata. Okay, now we have Ari. Which one was this? Here is the pad. Okay. Perfect. And let us speak.
Yes. Are you tired? No, I see it in your eyes, you are tired. And then I always say to my students when they are tired and I see it, I say, let's do something else. Let's sing a song together, maybe. Then the blood will come in your brains again. Yeah? But now I forgot my guitar, so it's not possible. I tell you about 15, 20 minutes about a project I did in Rotterdam. Here you see a lot of children from primary schools in Rotterdam near the Jewish Children Monument. There is a monument since 10 years ago, 2013. We erected this monument in Rotterdam with all the names of Jewish children between 0 and 12 years old who were deported and murdered during the Second World War. There are 687 names. Names with 0 year, 2 months, 3 year, 12 year. And they see all the names. What's going on then? And then we made a project for primary schools. Here you see Jacqueline van Vollenhoven, 1 year child. Alexander Velleman, 11 months. And so all the names, 687. But you can tell the story to the children, but they forget. Maybe. That's why we did the project in another way. We try to activate all the children, like Korczak did, to investigate and to research what happened here in Rotterdam, in our street. So I tell you about this project. What happened to Jewish and Roma and Sinti children in Rotterdam near your school during the Second World War? But first I had to tell something about Rotterdam, and you can understand better what happened. Rotterdam now, in 2024, is a very multicultural city. 70% of the children in primary schools have a non-Western identity. 70%. So you meet the world in Rotterdam. Because Rotterdam was and is a very big harbor city, and people come from all over the world. 100 years ago already, sailors, workers, labor workers, and so on, and they bring their families. And now we have a lot of different persons, different children with different identities, and they all come in Rotterdam together. And there are also original Dutch people, but we are all Dutch now. And then during the Second World War, at the 10th of May, the Germans, the Nazis, came to Holland. And on the 14th of 1940, they bombed the center of Rotterdam. And there were more than 1,000 people were killed, and a lot of people were homeless. And this is the city, this is history in your own city. And most children in Rotterdam knows already about the bombing. But they didn't know what happened more then. The bombing, oh yes, Rotterdam was bombed. But what happens more? In the beginning, there were more than 12,000 Jewish people in Rotterdam. They lived there. A lot of people lived there for centuries already. But there were also a lot of refugees from Germany came to Holland during the 30s. And from the 3rd of July in 1942, they all got a message, come, you have to register in Loods 24. That was in a harbor park. And from there, they were transported to Westerbork. And Westerbork, from there, they were transported to Auschwitz, Sobibor, and all the other places. You know, from Anna Frank, they were first to Westerbork, and from there to Bergen-Belsen. And now the question is, for the children in our primary schools. What happened here in Rotterdam? What children are there in our streets? And now I tell you about the program step by step. First, the teacher gave an introduction about World War II. It's for children about 10, 11, 12 years old, 13 years old. We give this program. A short lesson. And then we give every school, we give them a list with names from the Jewish monument. Names and addresses of disappeared Jewish children. And we make a selection. When the school is in this area, we give the names and the addresses of the children who lived there. You see, then they have to look. There's not the teacher is telling what's going on. No, we give you digital information, websites, look for it. Well, what can you find about this child? And there are a lot of possibilities these days. When you type in the name, then you can find the street and maybe a picture of the street in the 1940s and the family maybe. And when they have discovered the history, I tell you something more with other slides, but then make poems, make photos, make stories. And the end of the program is make a stone for the child you have discovered his history. A stone with the name of this child. The name of Abram Walvis, a Jewish child of 6 years old. Make a stone. And we gathered stories, and we tell stories about what happened more, not only this child, but there were a lot of children. There was also an orphanage in Rotterdam. And I tell the story about Janusz Korczak, but he was not the only one, with 200 children or 300 children who were deported. There's a teacher, a Dutch teacher, Salo Karlebach. He refused to let the children go. He said, I must go with my children, the same as Korczak. And he went with them to Auschwitz. Here you see a list from one school, a list with the streets in the area of the school, and there what we find when they were in Westerbork. Some of them were only a few days. You see here David 4 August, 7 August, and then go to Auschwitz. And this child, Helene, when you look for this website, you find a lot of information about Helena. You found a picture of where she lived. And I really told what happened with this child. Here, in this street, is nowadays, he is in Rotterdam. It was not bombed, this street. And the school is just opposite this street. And the children were gathering information and saw Noorderhavenkade 136C. And one of the children of the classroom stand up and say, oh, it's my home. I'm living there now. She was sleeping in my bedroom. What's happened? That is really, it comes to you, ghost pimples. It comes to the children, and they never forget what happened here. They never forget. But we do more, because we tell about the discrimination, the anti-Semitism. But all these children in the multicultural city of Rotterdam, they have a lot of stories about discrimination nowadays. And they tell about, and we said, oh, there, in the park, a sign for Jews forbidden. Let's change this sign for Turkish people forbidden. For Suriname children forbidden. Shall we do or not? And it comes to your heart, really. Your own experience, and not only in the street, but in our classroom. What's going on in our classroom with discrimination, with bullying? Is the same. How we can prevent, how we can manage it. And we have a program, De Vreedzame School. It's the peaceful school. And I know in Wrocław, here in Poland, there are some schools who are working with the same program. They translated the program of the peaceful school to try it also to implement it here in Wrocław. Barbara, you know about it? Where's Barbara? Oh no, I don't see her. And then the end of the question, what can we do together? What can we do in the fight against racism and discrimination nowadays? Not only from history, but nowadays. And at the end of the program, we make an exhibition in the school. And we invite the parents and the neighbors of the school. And all the children tell about what they have discovered about the children. And here you see the stones with the names. And here you see information they have gathered. And here again one. And a few years ago, we had also a big exhibition of several schools in the town hall of Rotterdam. What we have discussed about all these children. And then, at the very end of the program, all the children with the class go to the Jewish Children Monument, and they're looking for the names of their children. It's my children. And they have to look for it because it's not alphabetic, it's not of age, it's yes. And they have to look and all these names and they see all, here is my child. And they get the stone on the monument. And one of the poems of the children was this one. You cried here. The monument is on the place of Loods 24. That's the place where the Jews were deported. This place. You cried here. You stood here. Then one day things went wrong. They took you away from this place. Your name remains. We hold you tight. We know you belong at our school. And then there's more, not only the Jewish Children Monument, we have also Stolpersteinen in Rotterdam. And not only in Rotterdam, in different cities, places in the Netherlands. And we changed the program. Not only the children, but now the stones of the Stolpersteiner. You can do it the same. And then we said, that's universal. These children. You can do it in every city. You can do it everywhere. When you live here in Poland, in Wrocław, in the school, what happened here? What happened here with children? When you live in Germany, what happened here? When you live in Israel, what happened here? What happened in the world? And how can we fight together with the children for a future of peace? And at the end, I had once a poem. You were a child. You were still small. You were a child. You had to take the train. You lived in fear. You lived in pain. You were human. You were not allowed to live. Your name remains. We hold you tight. We know you belong in our school. Yeti, Benjamin, Abraham, Lotte, Flora, Isaac, Leo, Freddy, Marion, Salomon, Jansje, Arnold, Carla, Eva, 687 names. Thank you.
Thank you, Ari. It was very powerful message. We need a moment to reflect, I think, because of what's going on right now in many parts of the world. And after this reflection, I invite you for lunch in the co-working area. And at 2 o'clock, we resume for smaller sessions on the first floor in this building. And those of you who attend ICA, International Korczak Association General Assembly, we will be staying in the co-working area because it's more comfortable. We will set up a projector and a Zoom connection with those who are not with us in person. Thank you.